I'm Mimi G of MimiGstyle.com, a fashion and DIY blog where I teach you how to buy it, make it, mix it, and rock it. Today I'm really excited because over the next few months I get to bring you 6 amazing DIY projects as part of the Mimi G for Michael Levine Fabrics collaboration. Today's DIY project is a 2-in-1. We're going to create a very easy top from start to finish, and then we're going to be using some leather embellishments like the ones you see behind me. Let's talk tools. The first thing you're going to need is a t-shirt, preferably an oversized one that falls away from your body. Now you don't need to cut into it, we're just going to trace around it. You're also going to need some scissors, one for paper, one for fabric. You should never mix the two. We're going to need a fabric glue stick, coordinating thread, a chalk roller or a piece of tailor's chalk, some masking tape, some pins, a straight ruler, and a curved ruler. Now the curved ruler is not necessary. You can use a small round plate if you don't have one handy. And then you're going to need to print and cut out either the exclamation point or the pocket. Now let's talk fabric. Because we're working with leather, we want to make sure that we use a stable knit. So for today's project, we're going to use a double knit. I've chosen to use a black one, and we're going to be doing a purple one. And links to all of the supplies, fabric, and leather will be included in today's post. Now let's talk leather. For today's project, I've chosen 2 really great pieces of leather. This black one and this electric blue color, which has a metallic finish to it. Now you could use a faux leather, however, I prefer to use genuine leather because it responds better to my sewing machine. It glides better under my presser feet and it tends to last longer. Now, in order to sew with leather, you often need a Teflon foot. A Teflon foot is a plastic foot which helps glide over your leather, but I don't have one. And so if you don't have one either, what I like to do is I like to cover the bottom of my presser foot with masking tape. I just take a nice piece of masking tape and I cover the entire bottom of my presser foot, and then wherever the needle goes through, I just cut a little hole into that little area right there. And this will work just like a Teflon foot. We're going to be doing 2 separate projects. I'm going to show you how to do the exclamation point, and I'm going to show you how to do the pockets. Now for this one, I've already cut out my pocket out of the paper, and I've cut out my exclamation point out of my black leather. There are 2 variations to the pocket. Now you can choose to do the pocket as 2 separate pockets, or for this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to do 1 full pocket, and we're going to cut this here out of leather but on the fold of our fabric. Let's start with cutting out our pocket. You're going to fold your leather with the leather side together so the suede part is facing you, and then on the fold you're going to place your pocket. You can use some pattern weights or washers, which is what I use. I get them at a hardware store. And then using your fabric scissors, you're going to cut around your pocket. So you'll have 1 whole pocket piece. Now take your fabric and fold it onto itself, right sides together. Right sides meaning the side that people are going to see. And your selvage edges, the finished edges of your fabric, which run the length of your fabric, should be touching. You're going to fold your t-shirt in half and lay it against the fold of your fabric. And try and smooth it out as best you can. You're going to take a measurement from shoulder to however long you want your shirt to be. That can be completely up to you. For me, I like it to fall at about my hip bone, so I'm going to measure down to my hip bone. That's about 23 inches. And I'm going to transfer that measurement from the neck at the front down to the bottom of my t-shirt, and I'm going to make a little mark And then I'm going to fold that up, and I'm going to draw a straight line. And then just follow along your t-shirt up the sides. And then you can either choose to do this by hand, you can use your masking tape for the round, or you can use your ruler. It's completely up to you, and just follow along the curve of the t-shirt sleeve. Then make a marking at the front neck, and then a straight line at that shoulder. Oops. And then a straight line at the sleeve. Now we're going to remove this and smooth out some lines. So either using your masking tape or anything that's round, just smooth out that curve. And then you want to create the curve for your neck, so you can use your ruler, and you're just going to meet the shoulder to that marking that we did at the center front for the neckline. Now we have our shirt. We're going to cut this out, and then we're going to cut an exact same piece for the back. Using your fabric scissors, just follow your chalk lines. Pull your fabric up, lay it flat and smooth it, and lay this one against the edge of your fabric, the folded edge, and we're basically just going to cut out another one. Just make sure that you don't cut this piece, that you're only cutting the fabric underneath it. And you're all done. Now you have two pieces, one for the front and one for the back. Now if you follow me on the blog, you know that I enjoy an off-the-shoulder look. And if you want that look for your shirt, the only thing you have to do is you're going to measure from bra strap to bra strap. That measurement for me is 12 inches. So what you're going to do is you're going to take half of whatever that measurement is for you. For me, that's going to be 6 inches. And from the center folded edge, I folded my top in half so that I only have to cut once. From that center, I'm going to measure out 6 inches, and I'm going to just make a little mark up here at the top. And then, if you have a ruler that has a rounded edge, this will make that easier. But if not, you can eyeball it. So what you're going to do is you're going to go from here, and you're going to create a curve until you meet that new line. Just like that. That's it. And then you're going to cut that out. Make sure that you cut it out for the front and for the back piece. Let's start with the pocket. Now I want my pocket to be centered, so what I did was I folded my t-shirt in half, and I'm just going to press it along the middle just to make sure that I get a nice little crease, and that'll just let me know exactly where that center is. And as a design detail for the bottom portion of the one that we're using with the full pocket, we're going to create a separate band for the bottom. And so what we're going to do is I want you to measure up 4 inches and make a little mark. Sorry, it's easier this way. And then join your lines and then cut it. Now don't lose it. We're just going to set it aside because we're going to reattach it after we attach our pocket. And you're going to do this for the front and the back. Okay, so we're just going to set that aside. Remember to do that same step for the back of your shirt. We're going to open it out. And since we can't pin into leather because it creates little holes, we're going to use just a little bit of this glue along the edges. And then you just give it a couple of minutes to dry. It just kind of helps keep this in place so it doesn't shift too much while you're trying to sew. You're going to align it so it's right in the center. Using another piece of fabric or a towel or whatever you have handy. Cover it and just press. Never, ever, ever put a hot iron on leather. I'm sure I don't need to tell you that, but just in case. Okay. Now this one's all set. We're going to let it dry for a couple of minutes, and I'm going to show you how to place the exclamation point on the purple one that we're going to do. I have pressed a crease into the front of my shirt just like we did for the black one, and I'm going to put some of my fabric glue onto my exclamation point. And then I'm going to align it. The wider part of the exclamation point, of course, goes up towards your neck. I'm just going to fold that over and give it a press. Now we're going to set this aside and we're going to go to the sewing machine and start sewing our leather pieces onto our fabric. Okay, as you can see, I have replaced my presser foot with the one covered in masking tape, and I used 3 little pieces of masking tape just to hold my leather in place. Now you're going to sew close to the edge as you can. If sewing close to the edge is difficult for you, then just sew a 1/4 inch away from the edge of the leather, and then after you're done you can trim off a little bit if you need to. Now you're going to start sewing already onto the leather, not off of it. You're going to sew and then backstitch just a tad. And then you're going to sew all the way up, remove your masking tape. Don't sew over it. Backstitch. And then readjust. Make sure you don't have any bubbles. And you're going to sew across the top. Make sure it's nice and flat. Readjust, remove your tape, make sure everything is nice and flat. We're going to set that aside. We're going to change our presser foot. Grab your bands, those 2 pieces we cut off the bottom of our top, and we're going to sew them together, right sides facing each other, and we're going to sew along the short side using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Backstitch at both ends, sew the other side. Now we'll sew together our shirt and then attach our band. We are going to sew our exclamation point down to our fabric, and we're going to be sewing close to the edge. So make sure you're using your masking tape covered presser foot. And as close to the edge as you can get, start to sew. All the way down one side, and then lift your presser foot and sew across the bottom. Now I don't want you to turn it and sew this way. I need you to sew in the same direction. And then we're going to sew across the top. Now we're going to sew the little bottom piece the same way. In the same direction. And then across the top. Cut off any loose threads. And you have a really cool exclamation point. Now that we've attached our pocket to our leather, we're going to start sewing both pieces front and back together. So I want you to pin at the shoulder. Pinning just helps you keep both layers together while you're sewing. It makes sewing a little bit easier. You're just going to put a couple of pins at the shoulder, making sure that your pieces line up and that they're meeting at the end. And then you're going to pin around the curve. And you're going to do that for both sides the same exact way. And then we're going to take it to the sewing machine and sew our top together. Starting at the bottom of our shirt, now that we have pinned both sides and our shoulders, we're going to sew using a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance all the way up the sides. Make sure that you keep your eye on the fabric and the line marking here that says 5/8 of an inch. Do not stare at your needle. Now do one shoulder. other shoulder. And then starting at the bottom again, I want you to sew the last side seam. Before attaching our band back onto our shirt, we're going to cut off excess. So I want you to trim down your seam allowances to 1/4 inch. Okay. Now we're going to take our band and we're going to align our seams right sides together. So the right side of your band is going to be aligned to the right side of your fabric at the side seams. And then starting at one side seam, we're going to sew our band onto our top using a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Turn your shirt right side out. It will have a nice band. Starting at one side seam and on the wrong side of our fabric, of our shirt, we're going to fold up 5/8 of an inch, and we're going to sew along the edge to create our hem. Now you're welcome to take this to the ironing table now and press up 5/8 of an inch all the way around your hem if it's easier for you, and then come and sew it. I'm just going to eyeball it. You're going to sew your hem all the way around.
Rolling.
Now that we're done with our hem, cut off any loose threads, and let's do our sleeve. Using 1 full inch, we're going to sew a hem all the way around our sleeve. If you have a removable arm for your machine, sewing around smaller circles makes it a little easier. If you want to fold over your sleeve at the shoulder seam, you can turn it over and then tack it down just as a little design element, or you can leave it as it is. Cut off any loose threads. And finish the other sleeve the same way. For the neckline, you're going to turn over either a 1/2 inch or 5/8 of an inch. I prefer 5/8 because it's easier to manage. And sewing close to the edge, you're going to sew all the way around your neckline. Now the neckline has a curve, so it makes it easier to sew and then kind of maneuver your curve as you're getting to it, as opposed to trying to turn over 5/8 of an inch all the way around this curve. Edit that. Now that you're done, you're going to cut off any loose threads. And now we're going to take this to our ironing table and give it a really good press. Now we're basically going to lay these pieces on top of each other the way that we did for the black one. And you're going to pin it the same way that we did for the black one across the shoulder. Put one there in the center, and then you're going to pin the sides. And since we've already sewn the black one, we're not going to sew the purple one on camera because we've already done it, and you sew it up the same exact way. You're going to sew your shoulders, you're going to sew all the way down. The only difference is because we don't have a separate band, it's even easier because all you're doing is sewing up the sides, up the shoulders. You're going to finish the hem, you're going to finish your sleeves, and you're going to finish your new wider neck the same exact way that we did for the black one. Now that we finished sewing our shirt, we're going to give it a good press. So starting at the hem and working on the inside, we're going to press our seams so that they're nice and flat. You want to press your sleeves. And since we folded over 5/8 of an inch on our neck, we're going to steam it into submission. So you're going to lay it flat, working always on the inside of your fabric. You're going to press. And that will give you a nice flat finish. Turn your shirt right sides out, and you have a very cool new shirt.